All right, man. We over here on dog time. We on dog time. How you doing, man? It's a school boy. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Oh man, I appreciate you coming. I ain't gonna lie to you. I appreciate you coming, man. I had some questions I wanted to ask because you've been around for so long. You know so much about. We can't deny that you're the undisputed champ when it comes to these dogs' history.
I
How did you get
appreciate
so?
it.
I mean, other than your love, like, how did you get? I don't want you to tell your secrets, but how did you get all this? How do you get all this information, man?
I didn't realize it back then, but one thing about something, if I love something or I like something, whether it's dogs, whether it's, farming, whether it's handguns, rifles, firearms, cars, I study the history and I get as much information as I can. So I didn't realize it back in the day when I got involved with the breed that all this information that I was collecting would come in handy one day. And a lot of it just because I went over it and over it, front to back, side to side, all the way around, is a lot of it just sticks in my head. I'm getting older, so I forget a lot of stuff, but a lot of the stuff with the dogs, I don't because I repeatedly went over and over and over again. I see the like stuff I read or seen or whatever, it's like etched in my brain. I can think of something
Like
and like I'm
photographic
reading
memory,
it like that, but it's just because I repeatedly looked
right?
at it, over and over again. But yeah, I wish I could remember half of what I used to know. I,
Hey
I
man, I wish
forgot
I
a
could
lot.
remember a quarter of what you know, man.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be.
yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't
You'll
have so
get
many
there.
questions.
Yeah, that's all right. You'll get there. You'll get there.
Were you
But
were
yeah,
you born into the love of these dogs, or what age were
no,
you in
no.
love with these dogs?
I we've had dogs all our life, and we had working cattle dogs and horses, all that. Cattle, pigs, chicken, ducks, all that stuff. So, and my dad worked for a big old agricultural company. So we've always had dogs, different breeds, mutts, all kinds of stuff. But I didn't get involved with the pit bulls till I was 18 years old, and
Oh,
it just was a progression of I like boxing, game fowl was part of my and my culture
yes.
like that, and I wanted to do something. And honestly, that's why I got involved with the breed. I wanted to compete, right? I love boxing. I took some boxing, martial arts, but I can't see that good, so I couldn't really compete. I did a few tournaments like that, but I really couldn't see that good. Horses, I love horse racing, but that's expensive, and I don't have a lot of money. Game fowl is cool, but they're different from dogs. So I grew up with dogs, so it just kind of you know went in that direction, you know, and that's how it started. Same thing. I got all the information I could. Read the Stratton book, read Staffordshire book, any book on pit bull or staffs that I could find, any information. Then I started getting the periodicals for the breed, the Pit Dog Report, Sporting Dog Journal, Pete Sparks' old magazine, Your Friend and Mine, all that stuff. I have a library. I have pictures, tons of stuff, man, that I just refer to.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So what do you love most about conditioning these dogs?
And just the work,
Yeah.
the finished product, but getting to that finished product, and you're testing your skill as well as the dog's ability to condition also, how good are you? It's a challenge,
Yeah.
and every dog is a challenge, and it's just it's like the end result of all your hard work, and it doesn't start just with the key. It starts when they're puppies, which is why I always tell people you'll do better breeding and raising your own dogs because you know 'em, you know
Yeah.
and if you start with the exercise and the bonding and all that stuff when they're young, they'll be better as they mature to adult. And one thing about all that past, that's in the past, right?
Of
You
course.
can't do that no more. But the great thing about it is in today's time, all that stuff we put into the dogs can be used in today's time, whether it's breeding, whether it's conditioning, whether you like to hunt or you like to weight pool and all that stuff. It works across the board.
That's a fact.
So all that experience that anybody had from the past, they can use it in today's time or somebody getting involved. They can use all that information in today's time
Yes.
in a legal way, you know.
I better be a legal way. I hope so.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
So, I guess my next question is that's still on conditioning. In your true, honest opinion, do you feel like it's hard to learn how to condition a dog? Because a lot of people think they can just put a dog on this, put a dog on that, do this to a dog, take this away, take that away, and the dog's in condition. When that's just clearly not the case.
Yeah. Well, that's their first mistake, thinking they could do that. You know, you can't do that with anything. Even if you're born to it, which that's an advantage, right? You still have to go through the process. It's still trial and error. You could have your dad, or you could have someone there standing right next to you telling you what to do.
Yep.
You still have to learn the dog. You still have to learn the process. You still have to understand, the whole process of going through it. You have to know how to feed, supplement, whatever it is you're doing, whatever tool you're using or natural, whatever you're using. It's not easy. I tell people I'm slow, man. It took me 7 years to learn how to condition a dog
7
properly.
years.
Yeah, I mean, I did it. I just wasn't that good at it,
Understand.
because I basically had to learn everything on my own. And you can relate some of, if you take boxing or you football playing or baseball, whatever it is, you can take some of that and use it when you're conditioning the dog, but you still have to go through the process, and you have to do a bunch of them. And that's why it takes a lot of time, because even someone who's got 10 dogs, there's years that have to go by, before they're grown up, and you condition this one, then you do that one and this one, and they're all different, and all this stuff that's involved. So anybody that thinks that it's a shortcut, or they know what they're doing after a few times, they get shown that ain't the case. You can screw up and do a good job, because the dog will make up for your mistake. But to really know what you're doing, man, that takes time. That's anything,
And if guys really sit down and think about it, that's literally what they're doing. They're just doing a bunch of stuff and hoping it works for that dog.
Right. Without really understanding the whole process, or even understanding dogs. And that's an issue that I see happening too. When I was a kid, and most everybody, whether you lived in town or out in the country, you were raised with some kind of animals, usually dogs, but it could be horses, it could be cattle, it could be sheep, it could be tarantulas, it could be snakes, it could be whatever, right? And you learn how to deal and understand different animals, right? And there's a lot of similarities between animals, and there's differences also, right? So I don't see a lot of people doing that, going through that process. A lot of people don't get their first dog till they're grown up already, and then, what do you know about it? You can read a lot of information, and you can understand a lot of what you're reading, but everything is hands-on. Until you do it yourself, you really don't know shit. It's just that's just the way things are. It's like, I worked with a guy who he had a degree in mechanics or something like that, right? And it was all in theory. He couldn't tell you how to build anything himself. He could tell you all the specs and all the math behind it and all that, but he never did it himself. And he would tell you that. My degree is just in theory. I never built nothing, So, he has that knowledge in his head, but to put it to use hands-on, he didn't have that experience. The same thing with the dog. You can read all kinds of stuff, and you can repeat and regurgitate what someone else said, or what you read, or what they told you. It don't mean nothing, really. It can help you in the learning process of doing it yourself, but until you do that, it don't mean nothing.
Yeah, man. That conditioning, as I'm learning more and more, it gets deeper and deeper, and every time you feel like you got somewhere, you got to go deeper. Or when you feel like you turn left, you're supposed to right, so you come back around.
And you'll get heavy into it, and you'll have this thought and that thought and all this information, this and that. And then you're going to come to a point where if you just keep it simple, you'll be a lot better off. It's not that complicated, but you have to go through all that complicated stuff before you get to that point that you know what you're doing, and then you can simplify it.
Wow.
The more things you do with your dog, the more chances you have of screwing something up. So if you running them, if you milling them, if you cat milling them, if you spring pull and tug of war and flirt pull and you doing all this stuff, it's just more stuff that you could screw up, you know, where you can get the same work doing less
I
and
had
just
that
and just
before.
you know what I mean?
OG was like, "Hey man, you're doing too much." It was
Yeah, yeah,
I was a youngster, man. He was just like,
yeah,
"You got your dog on an Olympic tryout? Like, what the fuck? How many
yeah.
things you doing with that
You
dog
did.
in one day?"
Yeah, yeah. You in a decathlon or what are you
You know
doing?
what
You
I
know?
mean? I was just sitting there like,
Yeah,
"Oops." You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yep,
Hey, so
yep.
back in your day, of course, we know you don't have nothing to do with these dogs, but a bunch of history and YouTube channel. What
Right.
what what was your favorite state, area, and or country to go to shows to see and do your own stop?
Well, I stayed mostly local. The part of this I traveled was 9 hours.
Okay.
And California is so big that, for example, if you drove from one end of California to the other, it'd take you 15 hours to drive it. That's how big it is. And there's so many people here. There about a quarter of the population of the United States is here in California. There's about
Facts.
40 million people here now. And it's always been like that. There's a lot of people. So there's a lot of dog guys here at the same time, right? So, but I've been to different places. I've been to Louisiana, Texas, Arizona, different. I've been to Michigan, North Carolina, and all that. So there was plenty of competition here in the past, and Louisiana had great competition. Texas did, and then I really loved going to Mexico too. I went down there several times.
I mean, if you had
And
to really lock in and pick back then, what was your, if you got locked into that memory and say, you know what, nah, I really did prefer there. What would you say?
California.
Cali.
Yeah. Yeah.
California
Yeah.
wins in a lot of stuff and a lot of genres in life and just everything. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm an East Coast dude, man.
Even back then, we didn't get a lot of credit because we're so far removed from everybody else.
Yeah.
We have heavy population, but once you get outside of California to get to the east end of Texas, the population is sparse. Yeah. And so were the dogs. Once you get to Texas, like that, then it grows. All through the south, all through the northeast, the Great Lakes area, and all that, because that's where the breed started in the northeast.
Yeah.
So it branched out from there, right? But there were so many guys here, that you really didn't have to go anywhere. The challenge of traveling is really you. It's not so much your dog. If you have to learn how to travel great distances, and people did. But Texas, Louisiana, even places like the Carolinas, Ohio, Michigan, like that, tough places, man. Illinois, Chicago, and just there's dog men all over that have great history.
Yeah, being from the East Coast when I was a child, I always just heard stories about them Carolina boys, and then they throw in some Texas stuff in there. But I remember when I was a kid, I used to always just hear fucking Carolina.
Yeah, and two things too. Mm-hmm. One is a lot of the history is written in the periodical, the books, magazines, and all that, right? So depending on where that book is from, it's going to get more attention. So dogs like the magazine, like the Pit Dog Report or Pit Pal magazine from Texas. So they're going to cover all their stuff and not so much other areas, Jack Kelly started the Sporting Dog Journal in New York, so he covered all the Great Lakes area and Canada, right? So that was covered, and then he moved to Georgia, and then all the South was covered mostly, and everybody else did their thing too, but a lot of it depended on, who had the magazine, where it was at,
Wow, that's crazy to explain it like that, because when I do get the opportunity to read old ass magazines, I'm just looking at it like that was the dog of that time, and it's like, nah, it was other dogs equal and way better. That's just who got chosen right then and there because of maybe
exactly
politics. Maybe they
part of it is politics, but part of it is that's all they know. That's what they saw. Yeah. They really didn't come out here, or they didn't go to Mexico until later. or even Canada, you know, just a few guys in Canada, but there's a lot of dudes in Canada that were good, you know, and you know, so you get a certain perspective, you know, like they say, history written by the person, you know, by whoever writes it puts what they want for history's sake, right? And you know, in Pete Sparks magazine, the only reason the Deep South got covered is because he would go down there, you know. He didn't go to a lot of the other states, but he would go there because there's conventions, you know. And then the other places, he would just have them send reports in. He would report them. But as far as him seeing it, you know, he went to the South a lot, even though he was from Maryland, you know, up north. So it just, you know, it's that and you know, whatever's popular at the time too, you know. The Carolinas, you know, they had Game Dog Digest, and Game Dog Times, and there's a lot of good dogmen there, so they get covered a lot. But it's always that competition: who's better, who's this and that, da da da. In my opinion, there were good dogs everywhere.
Yeah,
and some great dogs, you know. And maybe it's my I don't know, maybe it's the way I think, but on average, you know, from my experience, all them years, right? Most competitions were average, not great, you know. And that's just like anything else, you know. Whatever sport you're involved in, you have a few standout, you have some right below that, and then as you go down and down, it gets more to where it's more average than top shelf, you know. People don't like to admit that, right? But
they don't.
That's what I seen. And maybe, like I said, maybe I'm biased or whatever, but that's everywhere. It don't matter if it's California, Mexico, Texas, like that. Not that they weren't great dogmen and great dogs, but on average, that's all they were, average, because people want to compete. So you're going to bring whatever you got, and you're going to try and win. And sometimes there's an upset, and sometimes it's boring, and sometimes it's a good one. You know, like a good club fight. The dogs may not be upper echelon dogs, but because they're so active and so busy and they're trying like hell and they got a lot of heart, it's a good show.
Yeah.
But it's not anything, you know, like devastating or anything where you go, wow, you know, like that, you know.
Not one of those headlight deer shows. It's like, oh,
yeah.
Oh,
it's hard to get that. It's hard to get that because there's a lot of factors that have to be involved for you to have that superior individual. It don't happen every day. That's why we can name just about every one that was, because there's not too many like that. There's, you know, Art, Zebo, you have Queen of Hearts and Tornado, and, you know, a bunch of them. But on the whole of all the dog, it's not a lot. It's only a handful.
Man.
That's why they get talked about and the other ones don't. You know?
That's a fact. Hey, so like, hey, man, being a certified historian in game dogs, which we all know you are, and being a participant many moons ago, were Mexican and black men a part of these dogs from day one, or did they come in like years later? What time frame?
From day one.
As far as
everything.
Yes.
Everything involved, competition, breeding, all that. It's just, you know, again, whoever writes the story is going to write it from their perspective. But as an example, George Armitage has a book, 30 Years with Fighting Dogs, right?
Wow,
he started around 1900, right? It covers about 1900 to 1930, right? In the first couple of pages of his book, he talks about a black guy who was a competitor. So this guy was doing it from then, you know. And if you think of Kobe, who sent dogs all over the world, all the way to Africa, all the way to all throughout Mexico, that was from the 1930s. So you always had different culture, right? But you have to do a lot of research to find out. And again, because of the way California is, it's so diverse, right? Everybody was doing it. You name it, they could be white, black, brown, whatever, Mexican, you know, you have Filipinos and Chinese, and you have even American Indians, and it was across the board, you know. And I try to cover that in my book. In fact, one of the first dog guys I met was John Craig, rest in peace. He's black. The other one of the earliest guys was Steve Dunleavy. He's white. Another early guy was Cat and Company. He's Mexican and Filipino. And some of the top guys that I put in my book, it covers the spectrum, which that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to represent the people that I knew, that I was familiar with, or that I competed with, or that I met, and put them in my book so they get the credit they deserve. So there's almost every color in there.
Man, that
but
book is going to be much needed. I'm going to have to read that, but I'm going to have to read those ones you would mention, because I am one of those guys that, it's, to me, it felt as though brown and black men it seems like they're not being documented. And that answer you just gave is going to make me sound like I keep asking the same question in a few of my questions, but we'll get through it.
Yeah. No, it's just, I wish more more ethnicities would write books or write articles or write something, even online. Because like I said, there's Cubans, there's Jamaicans, there's, you name it, dude, there's Koreans, Filipinos. And then, since the breed went all over the place, there are dogs in China, dogs in Thailand, dogs in Philippines, dogs in Australia, dogs in Africa, dogs all over Europe, Spain, Italy, Croatia, East Europe, the Balkans and Russia, and Canada, you name it, there's dogs there. And
that's why I laugh when people say,
"Oh,
the dogs are going to be extinct. They're going to take them away." Even if they were able to do that, when things get quiet again, they're going to be right back. These dogs they're everywhere, like you were just
they ain't going nowhere. And if you follow the law and all that stuff, you won't have a problem. But to eliminate a whole breed of dog, it ain't gonna happen. These are not wild animals, so maybe in the wild something can go extinct, and it has. But domestic, very, very, very rarely. It just, it just, if there's, I don't want to make it sound bad, but if there's money involved, meaning if someone's putting their hard-earned money into it, it ain't going away. It ain't. It's just, it's just the way it goes,
And Schoolboy definitely just answered. He just definitely answered my next question. So with that being said, to everybody, if you feel like you know something about these dogs, put it out there. We don't care about if you're doing nothing in the future, because we really don't care. But history, man. If you got uncles, if you got older guys of other descents, man, let's get their stories out there, so people won't be looking ignorant like I am in a lot of these questions, asking Schoolboy, well, what about black and Mexican men? What about blacks and Mexican men? And you're going to keep hearing them say, So it just is what it is. I done lost my space, my spot.
Yeah. I mean, the history of the breed goes back so far.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were involved, even if they didn't get the credit, But now, like you said, if someone, somebody or heard of somebody, or you have a relative or something, put it out there, write about it, and even something like the weight pool. I judged my first weight pool about 45 years ago. It's been that long, and I don't know when it started, but
right.
That's a long time ago, as far as time goes in the breed. And other sports came, they have treadmill race, wall climb and all that. And now they're doing French door course and hang time and all this stuff. But it's always been, people have always used them, catch dogs and hunting coyote, all kinds of stuff. So it's a versatile breed. That's another reason why it's not going anywhere, and it has a lot of different functions, that people are finding out, hey, this dog can do that. In fact, my friend in Panama, John, who passed away, rest in peace, he had a security business, right? And it was mostly mouths, right? And he's from Venezuela originally, and he had a security business. He was a cop down there, right? So he supplied a lot of the mouths to the police department all over the country. They probably have 10 or 15,000 working mouths, right, at any given time, and they probably got that many in training behind that, right? But he had the top drug and bomb sniffing dog of South America, right? Highly decorated, got all of this kind of awards. She was a female, Boudreaux bred pit bull. She was a pit bull, and I met her. She was a nice dog. You know,
Through and
she's
through. No,
smart,
nothing else in there. Brujo dog.
great. I seen her pedigree. It was all Eli, all Boudreaux.
I love hearing stuff like that, man.
She was badass, man. You
I
know,
love hearing. I do,
yeah,
man. I
yeah,
love hearing
yeah.
stuff like that.
And
I mean,
she could be off lead, and she was obedience trained and house trained and attack train, all this stuff he would do it. But that was her expertise, bombing and drug sniffing.
hey, man. In your opinion, other than you, right? From back in the day, as far as like all around great ass dog, man. Other than you, who would you say was the best Mexican or Mexican descent all the way across the board in those dogs back in the day?
Man,
I'm talking about the
man.
guy that everybody was like, man, he's the man.
Well, I would have to say, you know, like in Mexico, it'd have to be Enrique Morfin, maybe. You know, he's the most famous. He had a
Okay.
long career. You know, he had Eli Blood. He had the Stu Fowler Red Lady stuff, Fontenot's Booger stuff. You know,
Okay.
uh, like that. You know,
Well, I'm gonna have to go in the back here, man. You have to give me
yeah,
that name again
yeah.
so I can do my research on
But
him.
there's so many too. Antonio Bayonne Club, you know, real famous. There's Rodriguez and Ledesma and man Diaz and man, there's probably were as many that were as famous down there as there were up here, you know, and
I
they
mean,
competed against each
we're
other.
dealing with a whole country. So I
A
can
whole
only
country.
imagine the type of game history that
Oh man.
man.
And I've been all over, you know. I can't even remember the places I was at. I just know it was in Mexico. I've been to almost every state, or not almost every, but a lot of different ones, you know, all the way down south, up by the border, Baja, you know, and east, west, you know, man, just Mexico City and Morelia and the Yucatan Peninsula and Oaxaca and, you know, Jalisco and Chihuahua, all these different places, man. The great thing about it is when I go down there, you know, I've done both, you know. I've been down there for traditional dog shows and I've been down there judge confirmation shows and sports and all that stuff, right? But man, they treated me like family, man. They take me here and there and see all these artifacts and different, you know, the aqueducts that the Aztecs build and all the buildings the Spaniards build, you know, the churches and all the wrought iron, the marble buildings and big, huge, massive temples and pyramids
I
and
love Mexico, man.
man, it's
I
just
love Mexico.
great
Now,
time.
I will have to say that I didn't expect what I got when I got to Mexico. The times I visited Mexico as a child and as an adult, I mean, it's a beautiful country. The culture's there, the people
Yeah,
there, welcoming and loving. It's just
like
I
that.
love Mexico. I've been
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
figure out a way to get a good stream of American money to. That's one of my places to go, other than to live. I've lived in California. I live in the South, so it's
right.
either California, the South, or Mexico. That's where I'm trying to do. I mean,
Yeah,
I am into living in Africa, but they don't have confirmation shows in Nigeria,
not too many. They have some here, not really. You
so
know.
that's not going to be conducive to
Yeah,
me. I
yeah,
know the dogs are real popular in Puerto Rico.
yep,
A couple of my cousins were talking about some property in Puerto Rico grabbing, so I've kind of been thinking about that. And
yeah,
like back to what we're saying, there's just so many you can't mention. I just did a interview with the son of Little Jim, and it's an older dog man from back in the day. And I got a lot of people in the back end hitting me. Was like, man, I never heard of him, man. We need more. I want to know about, man. Get him back so we can da da da. And I was just like,
yeah,
to me, I've been hearing stories about him, so I'm thinking that I'm doing an interview, and the world's gonna be like, "Oh shit, Little Jim's son," and the whole time they're like, "Nah, we need more because we don't know who the fuck you talking about." You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. I met him. He was like, I mean, that guy. You know, just being around him. You know, the way he carried himself, real respectful. You know, and he had some good dogs, good competitor, and all that. But just as a man, he carried himself a certain way. You know, you had to respect him. Yeah, he had a long history.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, with the
I
breed.
appreciate. I definitely
Did
appreciate
did
you
did
saying
did
that.
he pass away already?
No,
Oh, good.
he's definitely he's at the stage of dementia and stuff like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah. Wow.
he's still here. A few of those dogs still around, and yeah, man,
Well, much respect to him, and I'm glad you got his son on there. That was good.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
man. I'll send him the link. He'll see it, and you know, he
There you go.
he knows how I feel about you. So it's all love. So I mean, as we know, Facebook. I mean, Instagram. look at me, YouTube. I'm tripping.
Yeah.
He's already answered this question, but I'm still going to ask him. Can we just name a black dog from back in your day? Let's say a guy who's like, man, his shit's so good, I want to beat him, or everybody was trying to beat him. Can you just name a couple from back in your day that stands out that people might not know of?
Yeah. Well, I'll name, just competitors that were, they go in anybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody was after them. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew them. At least out here, and I mentioned them before, but the LA Dream Team, the captain Jerome, they probably did about 10 or 15 dogs a year, real active, went into anybody. Yeah. It didn't matter. CMB was another one, Cash Money Brothers, John Craig, who I mentioned, Little Jim Marshall, who you mentioned, who else? I mean, there was Willie and Al and, just people that if you were out here or they happened to go, to different areas, you knew them, but unless you do some research, you probably wouldn't hear about them, but dog men who were involved, they know them, and then you have, Filipinos, you have Pineapple Kid, you have Tito and the Local Boys, you have Cat and Company, you have, even Chinese, Joe Chan and Chance Floyd.
I want to learn more about him. His name's been popping up a lot in my history.
Yeah. EC, is different dudes. And then a lot of guys even outside of my area, I knew them, I'm good friends with the Havana boys, Havana Chico, and I know Danny and just man,
it seems like the West Coast was really. It seems like the West Coast was on some brotherhood shit, and they wasn't really on no. It sounds like a lot of my questions that I had for you were probably better geared for somebody that was from that wicked East Coast and South. It sounds like you West Coast men was on different time, dude.
Yeah, because like I said, the diversity, right? So all that color, all that race, it kind of went out the window. And I'm not saying, there's always racism, there's always prejudice and bigotry and all that. That's standard. But at least here, when it came to the dogs, it wasn't about that. You wanted to do the dogs, and it didn't matter who you were, what color you were, and which a lot of times you don't see that in other parts of the country or other parts of the world, But even so, you got in New York, you got the Sonny Flack, and you got the he was part of the Flea Bitten Four, they called them,
Yeah, man. I found some pictures of those guys. I've been trying to find some documentation on them.
Then you had the Uptown Boys, Great Lakes era. You got Bobby Love, and you got Triple M and Mau Mau, and a lot of these people. I didn't meet them, but I followed their career, so at least I know something about them. You got Rasta Man, and you got Bakary, and Only America. All these different people, and it was just like I said, out here at least it was very diverse. And most of the time you got along. There was some problems, like no matter what, you're gonna have problems, Yeah. But that's across the board too. It didn't matter what color you were. If you're a problem, you're a problem, So I've learned, especially growing up, the way my mom was and like that. I deal with people on a one-to-one basis. So it don't matter to me what you are. If you're a good person, we're good. If you ain't, I don't have nothing to do with you. Thanks. It's that simple. And people don't realize this too. I don't want to get into a bunch of race stuff. Yeah. Most people are mixed in some way. You got some other race in you, man. That's just across the board, and not just here in California, not just the United States, all over the world. Mm-hmm. And these people are finding this out now. They do all this DNA test, and you find out you this and that. You didn't even know it. But if you follow history, and I'm I like all kinds of history, and I like geography and all that. Me too. It just makes sense that people are gonna mix. because you fall in love with, or you, whoever you with, and it don't matter what they are. I mean, if you don't think the African influence was in Europe, well, the Moors held Spain for like 500 years. So, you know what I mean?
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
You have the Asians and like that all over, from Europe to the Pacific Ocean, man.
Yeah.
So they gonna mix, and so that's kind of the way I look at it. It don't matter who you are. If you're good, I'm good. If not, I don't have nothing to do with you. It's that simple.
I mean, I feel like you've spoken this before, but can you honestly tell me? And like I said, I know you've spoken this before, but I'm really trying to get a page out of Schoolboy's book that nobody has documented, man. Why do you truly love the American Pit Bull Terrier? Because we can't deny that you're not in love with these dogs, dude.
Oh yeah, always will be, always, and dogs in general. But what makes a pit bull so different is, what it represents. If you can understand, or you can relate to being game or having heart, being tough and durable and loving and, people oriented, and, being able to be around children and still have that fighting spirit in you. And it used to be a representative of the United States. That was our breed, right? Because it was developed here. One of the few that was.
Yep.
Back in the day, anyway. There's a bunch now, but it represented a lot of the good qualities that people had or have. Maybe not so much now. I don't know, but the people can understand, and they could relate to. A lot of people could relate to having heart, being upstanding, no fake, no bullshit, the real deal, having honor and things that matter if you have a family, or even if you don't, upstanding citizen, or, it's that kind of dog. There's no bullshit about the Pit Bull Terrier. He shows you what he is all the way around if you pay attention. And you can admire it. And that's all that most of it is an admiration for the positive qualities that they have. And that's why I like them. But I'm that way with anything. I love horse racing.
Yeah.
Game fowl, hunting dogs, catch dogs, They're doing something that the average dog doesn't do or can't do.
Can't do, yep. They'll try.
They just ain't no good at it, They don't have that mindset, So, and that's bred into them. And like I said, it's a breed of the United States, even though it came from Europe. It's basically a mix of European fighting dogs, right? So it's not just one. It's not just the English, but it's also the Irish dogs, a little bit of Welsh, and a little bit of Scottish blood, like that, But when it came here, we developed it into our own, and in my opinion, Americans will take something and make it better than what it was when they originally got it, and that's what we've done with it,
Yeah, you probably
the proof to that is, how come everybody wants our dogs, we weren't going all over the place looking for something,
You got a really good point there. You're probably going to be parroting yourself a little bit again with this next question.
Yeah.
But have you heard you touch on this briefly on this subject? But being a man raising his family around these dogs, can you give us a true in-depth theory on what these dogs can do in a positive aspect with families and human beings?
Yeah, good. That's a good question. First of all, with children, they're a companion and a protector first, which most dogs are. And in my opinion, I never had to teach my dogs to defend family, kids, home, or nothing. They did it instinctively.
Yeah.
And dogs will do that, right? Mm-hmm. The other thing is the influence that they had on my children, especially, was, good work ethic, never quit, don't be afraid, because whether they realize it or not, and I told them this myself, whether they realize it or not, that influence carried forward with them as they grew up into adulthood. So if they have a task at hand, they ain't going to quit. They're going to get it done. And girls, girls complain a lot. And you know what I tell them? That's all right. You'll get it. I know you're going to get it. You ain't going to not do it. That's just the way you are. That's the way you were raised. So they may complain, but I'm not doing this no more. This and that. All right, don't. And then they'll come around. No, I'm going to figure it out. And they figure it out. And as far as health wise, just that conditioning and all that, it just transferred over. So they do all kinds of stuff, man. The oldest daughter, she jumps out of planes. She runs marathons. She jumps bungee cord jumping. She skis. She's got a master's degree. She's a full-time teacher. She's a full-time student. She's working on her second master's. She did 100-something mile run from where we live to the coast, by herself out there. Some things she was doing. The other ones are the same way. My son will run in 110-degree weather. He don't care. He's going to go do his 10-mile jog. The other one too. They go out and they do their workout. School baby, she'll do this and that and da da da. They just, and in their jobs and all that, So it all reflects all that. When they get a job, they're going to move up. They're going to advance. They're going to get better because it's more pay, but because they want to improve. They want to be the best at whatever it is they're doing. Whether it's something minute or something major, being a supervisor or in charge of something, that just, and a lot of it, not all of it, because their mother's that way anyways too, and me, I'm more the educator. I'm the one they come to if they have a problem or they need something, but their mother is the one who developed them into being a certain way. And her as an example, she's a workaholic. She get everything done. So I'm kind of like the captain, but I can't do it without the team. Yeah. If I need something done, I'm going to tell my girls, hey, I need this done. Okay, Dad, we'll take care of it. Don't worry. It don't matter if it's an event or if it's some school project or whatever, In fact, when my oldest one went to college, I wrote her first paper for her, He goes, Dad, I don't know how they can help me. Yeah, I get it. And it was on slavery, right? And I just read kind of what the teacher wanted, this and that. I looked at the book, kind of went through it. Boom, boom, boom. Took me about 20 minutes to write a paper. And she got an A on it, But it wasn't just, do this for me. It was show me how to do this. How do I get a good grade doing it? And I told her, all you got to do is figure out what the teacher wants. And you'll get extra credit if you put some thing in there that is not on the list,
It's going to impress her. Coming up? You were school your thing?
Yeah, but I was kind of spoiled too, because I went to Catholic school for first 6 years, and you get a real good education, whether you Catholic or have faith or not, whatever. But you're going to get a good education. So I went from private school to public school. I didn't even have to study, and I just floated through high school. I already knew everything they were teaching me. So the last year I didn't do nothing. I never picked up one book.
Man, I hear a lot of stories, man, from back in the day historically about pretty much making it seem like it was hella cutthroat back then. People will send you around the mountain 6 times to get to the spot, or all these type of things. But yet, I kind of got a different little feeling from talking to you today, talking about what you've experienced. Would you say the game back then was hella cutthroat? Would you say it was hella camaraderie? Was it brotherly love? Was it all of the above?
All of the above, because it's just like any endeavor, anything you get involved in. There's good, there's bad, there's cheating, there's lying, there's stealing. So that's always been that way through the history of the breed. The difference is when you have more people doing it and more people have dogs, which means you have more dogs, you're going to see more of that cutthroat. And hopefully you're going to see more of that camaraderie and getting along. Because, in reality, if you're a problem or you create problems or you're a cheater, a liar, a thief, or you rub dogs, this and that, you're not going to last. You're going to be weeded out. So even if you didn't get along with somebody, you didn't like it, when you were at a private event, you kind of left that go. Unless it was a real big issue or something, you either let it go or you just didn't deal with those people. You avoided it. right? But for the most part, like I had a lot of shows at my house. I never had a problem. Not one. People respected me. They knew that was my home. My family lived there. Got along with everybody, treated everybody the same. And sometimes you didn't get that. Been given the runaround more than once. But also, if you have some foresight, you have to expect that to happen. So you should prepare for it.
Prepare for it.
Right? It doesn't matter if somebody's nice to you or you get along with them. If they do some sneaky shit like that, then you should be prepared for it. So it didn't matter if they rode me around for 2 or 3 hours. I didn't care. My dog was used to it. Didn't matter. I had no problem with it. It's when you're not prepared for it, then it becomes a problem. Right? Because no matter how much they ride you around, you still have to get there by a certain time because there's a time stamp on the event.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times, no matter how far I was going, whether it was 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever, I got there about 2 hours before and I was good to go. And I take my dog, empty him out when it was time, and then boom, do the thing. I didn't need all this, a lot of people who do this and do that, and they, weigh them 20 times and all, you already know if you're going to make weight or not. Shit, I knew a week out if I was going to make weight or not, or where it was going to be, and that's something I posted in my group today. Garcia won last night, right? Beat Haney, right?
Hey,
and
I'm mad I didn't get. I was going through. We ain't got to get all into it, but I didn't get.
Right.
I didn't get my bet in. I didn't get my bet in.
Right.
Personal family stuff. I knew he was going to win. I knew he was. We'll talk about that in a minute. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish your point.
Yeah. And he came in overweight, right? So he had to pay the forfeit, paid him whatever it was, right? And I mentioned in my group, I said he knew. They're complaining. How come he didn't make weight? He knew he was going to miss the weight about a week out. There's no way he didn't know. And if you watch the replay, the weigh-in, he knew it at least then because he's already rehydrating himself before he steps on the scale. He takes a big old bottle of whatever it is, juice or whatever, and he's drinking it like that before he gets on the scale.
I saw that too.
So he knows he's overweight. He knew that. So he wasn't going to kill himself to try and make weight. He came in comfortable, and it showed. He looked a lot bigger than Haney, which helped him. And honestly, I thought Haney was going to win, and it's okay if I'm wrong because, that happens, But I could see coming up to it, man, he's going to win. Before they went in the ring, I had a feeling that Garcia was going to win.
As soon as maybe I'm just one of those middle-aged guys that just believe in one of those theories. I'm an 80s baby, so maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist kind of guy. When he started all the la crazy shit, I said, this is all a setup. This is fake. He ain't going crazy, and he gonna be a beast at that show. when they announced he wasn't gonna make weight, I threw my eyebrow up like, fuck, like you're a whole professional. You ain't make weight. Stop it. You know what I mean? But I kind of felt like he was gonna win. I'm kind of mad I didn't get my bet in.
Yeah. Well, like I said, he knew he was gonna miss weight, and it wasn't that day. He knew beforehand, so he didn't trip. I think he accepted, okay, I'm not going to make weight. I still want to fight. I'm not going to win the title if I win, but I'm not going to kill myself trying to make that weight. Right. And that's the way it went, which is smart. Same thing in the past. I wasn't going to do stuff I wasn't going to change nothing. Whatever my dog came in at, that's what he came in at. That's where he should be. So I'm not going to adjust. I'm not going to change nothing. I'm not going to take water away or give more water or give food or take food or walk him out 20 times a day trying to make weight. No, he comes in how he comes in. And that's a mistake that, not just in the past people made with dogs, but human athletes have done the same thing, trying to make weight, and it'll kill you, man.
Because they so back in the day, because we're obviously talking about historically stuff, do you think they were just super pressed to not have to pay the forfeit?
Yeah. Yep.
So that's where it turns. That's one of those situations that turn into a money thing. I got your point.
Yeah. And some people did it on purpose. If you miss weight on a dog by quarter pound, half a pound heavy, even maybe up to a pound, if the dog, let's say the dog won't empty out or something. Right? But if you 2-3 pounds over, you did it on purpose. There's no mistake. There's no way you can miss it by that much,
How many
right?
how many pounds over would you allow somebody to come in and you still go forward back then?
Man, I don't even know.
They left.
I've done it where they're 2 pounds over. I've done it with dogs, and this is, I get criticized for this because for me, as long as you were close, I'm going to do it. And even if I had a smaller dog, doing them at a heavier weight, I'm going to do it because there's so many factors involved. Now it's not smart a lot of times, and it's cost me once or twice. But I gave up, not gave up, but I'd bring a dog up a pound, 2 pounds sometimes. That wasn't really their weight, but I felt I could win. I had a good dog, and most of the time I was right. And that's the thing. If you start worrying about that weight, which a lot of people do, it's going to screw you up. You're going to make a mistake and could throw your whole keep off. And the other thing is they got to make weight too. They got to condition right too. They got to pick the right weight too. They got to feed right, and everything's got to go right. So that it's not just on my end, oh, you're giving up weight. Well, shit, it's on them too. Who says they picked the right weight? They could have made weight, and their dog's really a 2 pound smaller dog.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, I went to one, this was in Mexico. One dog made weight, the other one was overweight. The dog that made weight was bigger than the dog that was overweight. They totally missed the weight on him. And people were betting on the heavier dog, not me. Man, he's just fat. He's not, that's not his.
He's tired, man.
That's it, man. And of course he lost, and he lost quick. He was just a small dog, man. They just missed the weight. That's just inexperience, but people look at that weight like that wrong sometimes, And on humans, it's different. 5 pounds ain't gonna make that much a difference. And if you follow the history of the breed, almost every dog you see, it's very rare that they would match at the same weight every time. It don't happen. Some, yeah, that's their weight. It's like Hagler. He was 160 pounder. That was his weight. That was it. No smaller, no more. And Carlos Monzon, same thing. But most fighters, nah. They start here and they move up and they move up. And same thing with dogs. They'll even go up and down sometimes. One guy will do them at 38. The other guy do them at 37. And as he gets older, they'll do them at 39 or even 40. But, dogs will grow sometimes. So it's rare that an individual is the same weight for every event. It don't happen. Too many factors involved.
I like that. Well, I want to talk about this problematic question. And when I say problematic, I'm talking about strictly dogs. And in today's time, you hear people criticizing people that love talking, learning, and indulging in pedigree talk, right? Because we all know, in theory, back in the day, you couldn't hold a pedigree between your legs.
Right.
But
right.
those days is over. We're not on that. All we're doing is hunting hogs. We're doing confirmation shows. So my question is this: what are breeders and fanciers going to do with the new topic starting that they want? Some people feel like they want to change the names of these dogs because the past dogs was 50, 40, 50, 30, 60 years ago. Half of them have lies and rumors about how they're bred. You know what I mean? So, like, how do you honestly feel about why not? Let's start over, because there's a lot of older OGs out here. There's a lot of YouTubers out here, a lot of up and coming historians out here that feel like F that. These is Eli dogs. These is Mayday dogs. These is Red Boy dogs, and let's stick to it.
Right. Well, my first question would be: is why you want to change it? If you want to change it because you're concerned for whatever reason, some negative aspect of it, that I understand. But if you want to change it because you want to invent something, or you want clout, or you want to say, I did this, which is the reason most people want to change things, right? Then it takes away from the originality of the breed. And regardless, though we can't do what we did in the past, it don't change the name of the breed. It's still that. Still the American Pit Bull Terrier. And if you're trying to please a certain group by changing something, you're going to insult another group by doing the same thing.
Wow.
Right. So, I mean, I know people that want to do that. I tell them, go for it. If that's what you want to do, go for it. That's up to you, whether it'll take hold or not. But also there has to be something behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're going to change it to whatever,
mm-hmm.
What's the reason? Apart from the ego, apart from, I want clout for doing something. What is your reason? If you want to make an American Pit Bull Terrier solely a catch dog, solely a coyote dog, solely a legal sports dog, then I could see somebody doing that. But does it change the history of the breed? No. You wouldn't be able to do all this stuff we're talking about in today's time. You wouldn't be able to do none of that stuff if it weren't for what the people in the past did with the breed. That's what made them what they are. Right? It's just like, I've told people this. Pit bulls, most of them are good with children. In fact, they're different with children than they are with adults. They understand that they're small. They're not a threat. They need protection, right? That ability to recognize that and be that way with children comes directly from their gameness. In this respect, just what I said, they're not a threat. They have nothing to prove by hurting a small child. There's nothing to gain by that. That's why you see a lot of pit bulls. They won't hit a cur dog. They won't hit a little piece of dog that ain't nothing. There's no challenge to it. What do they gain from it? So in the same respect with children, like my dogs, they were active. They jump on me, this and that, adults, right? Because they knew we could handle it. With my kids, they weren't that way. They wouldn't jump on the kids. They wouldn't nip no kid. They wouldn't hurt a child. That comes from that intelligence, understanding. They know they're a badass. They have nothing to prove by showing a little child that. That's my theory, my hypothesis. I could be full of shit, but it makes me feel good,
No, I totally agree with it. I've been hearing that talk come up a lot, and I can't lie. I was feeling it, but once I started thinking about it, I was like, man, but I don't believe in this shitting on the past deep down.
Yeah.
I don't
it's like, I met several professional boxers, Bobby Chacon and Max Foster, he fought Ali and this. They're humble people,
Mm-hmm.
They're not braggarts. They don't act tough, because they know what they're capable of. They know that what they could do to a person, because the average person don't know how to fight and ain't been what they've been through. So they keep that in perspective. They have nothing to prove by beating some drunk guy up or have a street fight with somebody, and that's how kind of related to the dogs, They have that intelligence to understand that.
I know. I'm pretty sure you've been asked this before, and I might have missed it. But was Big Red your favorite dog, or he was just your most popular dog?
He was my best dog, I would say, because of his ability to produce, But my favorite dog was Mr. Rowdy. He was a 2-time winner. He lost in 2.5 hours. That's one of those mistakes I made. I bumped his weight up 2 pounds, and it cost me. But he proved himself. He was a great dog, and
the first
I bred him. My wife bottle fed him, hand raised him. So he was real close to us. But
when did you realize he was the one? Well, not the one, but when did you realize this is a good dog? And like what?
When he was a baby. People ain't gonna believe it, but when he was a baby, because
I want the truth. I don't care what they believe.
Yeah. It just the way he was, He loved my wife. That was his mama. In fact, for his first show, he was behind, right? He was not losing, but he was behind, right? Yeah. And my wife was in the house, and she, like I said, she had hand raised him. So she comes out, she sees what's going on. She goes, "Hey, Roddy, what are you doing? Come on, boy." Man, his tail went up 100 miles an hour. He put it in second gear and dominated because she told him to. Let's go. Come on, what are you doing? Like, man, cut that shit out. Go whip his ass. Like that.
When she did that, was he on the bottom or was he on all four?
No, he was on all four, but he was cut up. His stifle, his muzzle like that.
Yeah.
Definitely losing. He looked just like a game dog, but once she talked to him and told him what to do, man, it was over. And that's part of the reason, why we loved him so much. Plus, he just had a lot of spirit, that high intensity, a lot of will, and a lot of ability and like that.
Yeah.
Big Red, he was a good dog. Great producer. It didn't matter what you bred him to, you was going to get something out of it. He was just that way, and that's rare in dogs. Some they work here and there, but not here. It didn't matter. I bred him to a female. I didn't even know how she was bred, and I got a couple of good dogs out of that.
Yeah. That goes crazy, man. I love the stories, man. I really love the stories, man. I wish times didn't change, but times change, so I'm over it. And
Yeah,
I really do enjoy confirmation shows. I really do
yeah,
enjoy going to South and watching boys hunt with hogs and stuff like that.
yeah.
Trying to
And
get it.
and I've told people this too. Do something with your dog. Do something, man. Bond with them, exercising, get them out there, keep that durability and toughness in them, and that spirit and that heart. It may not be the same as in the past, but you can still keep a quality individual that's a representative of the breed that has a lot of good qualities to it. You know, and not to take this in a bad way, but in the past, people had $50, $100, 200, 300, whatever. You can't do that no more. But what it will do is you're going to have less dogs, so you're going to be able to spend more time with them and develop them better and have a better bond and probably have a better dog, at least physically and mentally. Because if you got 100 dogs, man, you ain't spending no time with them. I don't care what anybody.
I
There ain't
tell
enough
people all
time in
the
the day.
time, man. I tell people all the time, these confirmation shows are fun. It's good work for the dogs. It's so many hog hunting circuits in the South and in Florida's and they welcome anybody to bring their dogs out. Uh,
Yep.
all through Texas, Arizona, and stuff. You can dispatch coyotes with these dogs. It's a lot of stuff that you can do and be perfectly fine and still get your thing off with your dogs. You just gotta,
Yep.
might gotta do
Yeah.
some
And,
traveling.
and right.
But
And that's true all the way from California to Florida. You can do all that. There's no limit on coyotes out here. There's no limit on hogs, none of that. People, some people let you go on their ranch and do it for free because they're tearing up the grapes or they're tearing up the whatever. So they how you say they welcome it, you know. Yeah, go get rid of that nuisance. And it's the same with squirrels and rabbits and what do you call them, raccoons,
if
all
people
that.
just
So there's a
do the
lot you
right,
can do with them.
if people just do the right thing with these dogs, put them in the good light, and it's okay to support history and knowing that, but just not glorifying any stuff that you shouldn't glorify. These dogs don't keep. I mean, they're going to thrive regardless. What am I
Oh
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah,
But
yeah,
hey, who
yeah.
wants to keep living in areas where you have to duck dogs? Who wants to live in areas where there are
Right.
breeding plants? And if everybody tightens up, we can get all this stuff lifted. All this stuff will go away,
Yeah.
and we won't have to. You won't have to deal with getting a phone call from your home insurance saying, "Hey, go find somebody's house. Your house ain't insured." Why? Because you got
Right.
pit bulls back there. Wait. You didn't tell me. Well, you should have knew. And now you realize, wait, you can lose your home insurance behind these dogs. You can.
Exactly.
They're banned in certain counties. There's a
Right.
county in one of the properties we own in the family, PG County. I heard that they have it back in legislation. I don't know how to check that up, but they have a full blown ban. And the law clearly states you cannot own them, have them, or harbor them at your home. Now that's crazy. This has
Yep.
been going for
It is.
24 years, and all of the case it's already been proven. All of the cases that brought this ban to light in that area were all bullies. But
Right.
that's a whole another subject.
Yeah. 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 Well, I got a story behind that too because it's not something new. It's been going on for years and years.
Hmm.
So in our area, they tried to do the same thing. They have like a town hall meeting to discuss this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So me and my wife went, right? And the way I represented it was two ways, right? You want to ban this breed, right? First of all, it's prejudice to ban a certain breed of dogs.
Yep.
And for whatever reason. The other thing is, who's the expert to say that's a pit bull and that one's not? Because like you said, it's bullies, it's mixes, it's this and that. They all call them, all of them, pit bulls. You can't do that. So it never went anywhere. It stopped right there, and it's never happened here.
Wow.
You know, and I'd like to think that we had a little bit to do with that.
It sounds like it, man. That's good.
Yeah.
I wish we had you in this area. Shit.
Yeah, but that would be. It's almost like a civil rights issue. How can you prejudice one breed? That's bullshit. They're not even on the stats of being toward the top of human aggressive dogs or biting people.
No way.
They're not.
It's
like people. I'm gonna go off tangent a little bit. You know, I'm gonna go off tangent a little bit. Everybody knows the United States known for having firearms, right?
Hmm?
We're not near the top of behind murders and accidents of people using firearms. We're like 26 country or 30 countries.
Really?
That yeah. The United States we ain't the most violent with guns. Not even close. I think Switzerland is number 1 or something like that. And they're a neutral country. But per capita, Switzerland has more firearms than the United States there. And as far as banning firearms, right? Mm-hmm. There's a ban in Mexico for firearms. How many people you think get murdered with firearms? Taking people's guns away ain't gonna fix the problem
at all.
And just like taking the breed away ain't gonna fix the problem of dogs biting people, because a pit bull is not at the top of the list for doing that anyways. But you know, you gotta really do some research. You know,
I feel like those PETA people just don't want us to have animals anymore. I feel like it's big.
They don't want anybody to have any animal.
Yeah, it's
bigger. I mean, it's hypocritical. So now you're going to get rid of all. Let's say they stop livestock. What are you going to do with all them animals? Millions and millions of cattle. What are you going to do with them? Who's going to feed them?
They're going to turn them all out. They're going to turn them loose. They're going to have cows at the stoplight.
Okay, that's just going to make it worse.
Exactly.
Can't do it. Billions of chickens, billions of turkeys, billions of hogs, billions of goats, billions of ostrich. All this stuff livestock used for food. Can't do it. Not to mention the dairy, business.
Well, they successful.
So they
go ahead.
They don't want to have anybody to have any domestic animal.
Were they successful at ending dog racing with the greyhounds, or are they still trying to ruin that?
I don't think there's greyhounds in the United States. I don't think so. I'm not sure.
Damn.
Yeah. And when you look at things a certain way and you put human emotion into it, you can construe it negatively no matter what you do about it, you know. And if you want to take the opposite side, you know, you got to kill millions and millions of animals to grow product, agriculture. You can't avoid it. That's just the way it is. So whether it's bees or squirrels or rabbits or whatever it is, you got to eliminate them, or you ain't gonna grow no food.
Yep.
You ain't.
It's just not gonna happen.
People gonna, So it's just a twisted way of. Yeah, if they went out and actually worked land, or had livestock or something, they would have a different perspective of it. You know, you would respect the animals. Mm-hmm. They're I didn't grow up hating cattle because I eat them. You know, mm-hmm. They were a benefit. They helped us survive. So that's the way I look at it. The killing it for food, that's just part of the process. You know, it has to be done if you want to eat. And I don't put no animal above humans. That's just me.
You know, you mentioned. I ain't gonna lie, man. I'm not gonna get into it this time. I'm gonna have to give you a break from me because I know everybody in the world wants Schoolboy content, but man, I gotta get a cattle dog interview because you gotta teach me about these cattle dogs. You got me on YouTube searching cattle dog stuff,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Look up Kelpie, Kelpie.
Okay.
And those are they're used for cattle a lot in Australia.
Was
You know,
that what you and your dad used back in the day?
yeah, they were Kelpie and Shepherd mixes. Like they're called Australian Shepherds out here, but they ain't called that in Australia. Australia, they never heard of an Australian Shepherd, but it's just it's like a collie almost. You know,
Gotcha.
herding dogs. It would come from that. You know. But yeah, they're amazing to watch, and they're tough in their own way too. You know, they get stepped on, they get kicked. You know,
I say I can only imagine the type of stuff them cows can do to them when they catch them.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
and it's just a matter of them understanding what you want them to do. It's like my dad. He didn't have any formal training with that, and he taught our dogs to be verbal, understand commands in Spanish and English, right? And it was just a matter of the process of them seeing what you want done, whether you want to corral them, whether you want them in a circle, whether you want them to go here, or there's a stray, you got to go get a stray. They're just like natural to it, man. You know, and if you have a bunch of them together, say you have them corralled up, right? Gotcha. That dog will walk on top of the cattle, right? Mm-hmm. And keep them in line like that, you know, walking on their backs like that, going from one cow to the next, you know. Or put them in a circle, or get them to where you're going to load them into a trailer, you know. Mm-hmm. It's amazing, man. They're smart.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I've been watching. I was like, man, these dogs really, these dogs is working.
Yeah.
Hey, Schoolboy, I ain't gonna lie, man. I just had a busload. You know what I got going on? I just had a conversion van, a family just pull up, and so I definitely gotta go figure out what's that about.
Yeah. Go take care. Go take care of it.
I hope they got a hotel. No, I'm joking. Hey, man, you know, everything we're talking about here, Sir Kennels, is all history. We're not doing nothing with these dogs, but talking about them and going to confirmation shows. So anybody that's trying to mix it up, that's on you, because ain't nothing going on here but good old history. We like talking about stuff, and we're going to keep talking about stuff. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Hey, Schoolboy, I really appreciate you, man, being on Dog Time with me, sir.
Anytime, brother. Just give me a holler. We'll make time for it. And thanks for having me on. And just to reiterate, it's all history, nothing meant for legal purposes. I ain't been involved in that in 30 years, man. So, but I feel the history is important, and there's a lot of different aspects to the breed that apply today. And that's what I'm here for too, because I have that experience too, you know, judging shows, judging weight pool, giving lectures, and having, you know, all kinds of stuff. That's how much I love the breed. I've been to Europe, Mexico, Central America, all over the US, you know. It's all part of the breed. So I'm fitting right in now too, man. All that stuff in the past is in the past. But you know, we love the breed. That's why we do it.
We appreciate you, sir.
Anytime, brother.
Oh, man.
Take care.